All right, so I just got back from watching The King of Kings, the latest film from Angel Studios, who have just been pumping out a bunch of movies since Sound of Freedom, it seems like. But this is their first animated film, and it is about the life of Jesus Christ and the frame story is it's Charles Dickens telling the story to his son. And through that, we get the life of Christ. So, when it comes to movies based off of the Bible, or TV shows or anything, I am very picky because I don't want whatever. I'm very cautious of whatever depiction of the events I'm seeing on screen influencing how I see the scripture when I'm reading it myself. I'm a lot more critical of details than I would be in adaptations of other things. I am a bit more lenient when it comes to cartoon adaptations of the Bible because that is more leaned towards kids. Like nobody is saying that VeggieTales is 100% accurate, but I still love VeggieTales because it's funny, it's entertaining for kids, and it does get the whole message of whatever story they're adapting across to kids. And they make it so obvious that no kid is going to confuse this with actual scripture. That's why I've stayed away from The Chosen, even though everyone's been raving and, ranting about how awesome it is. I don't want it to kind of influence my perception of the life of Christ. I don't want it to be that definitive version in my head. But this is a cartoon, and, I'm a bit more lenient when it comes to that. And let me put it this way. This movie starts off very rough. It gets off to a very rocky start. I was not into this movie at all during the first half hour, maybe 40 minutes. The stuff with Charles Dickens and his family to me, it was kind of annoying, especially the kid. They treat it like The Princess Bride, where the kid keeps interrupting and making snarky comments as the dad or the grandfather in The Princess Bride is telling the story. But instead of it being charming and funny, it's just very annoying and basic because the kid is like 10 or something, but he acts like he's 6, and so he's like super hyper and running around, and it was just annoying. And there's this annoying little cat, and I was not vibing with it at all. Also, the animation it's not awful, but it's not great. If you're used to the Pixar or DreamWorks style animation, this is not that quality, which of course it's not. Angel Studios is not as big of a company as Disney and DreamWorks and whatnot. Although I do wonder if they could have spent a little bit more money on the animation if they didn't spend so much money on their cast, because this movie is loaded with celebrities. Some of them are only in the movie for like 5 minutes, like Pierce Brosnan as Pontius Pilate. I don't know why they had to get Pierce Brosnan to be Pontius Pilate for like not even 5 minutes, like 3 minutes, but whatever. Maybe they could have spent a little less money on the cast and, gotten, better animation. I don't know. But to be fair, the animation it's not as, you get used to it. It's not as bad. I will say the mouths don't quite match the words quite as nicely as I would like it to be. That might be my main issue. But yeah, and then even once it starts getting into the stuff, about the life of Jesus, it is very, footnote style, like bullet points. We're hitting the main things that happened in the life of Christ. And I wasn't seeing a lot of narrative flow. It was just, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. And they also portrayed Jesus as they leaned more towards him being, separate from humanity. And they didn't quite lean in toward the fact that he was also 100% human. He felt very alien throughout most of the movie. Not all the movie, but most of the movie, Jesus felt very alien. And that's not what he was like. He wasn't an alien. He was fully God and fully man. He was flesh and bone, who had, personal emotions and feelings and stuff like that, who related to people. But here he seems very, in the beginning of the movie, he seemed very aloof and separate from everybody. However, the movie kind of redeems itself at the end. The closer we get to once we get to Palm Sunday, and a little bit before Palm Sunday, the sequence of Jesus walking on water was really good, and there's some other good sequences before that, but the movie really shifts in tone. There's less interruptions of Charles Dickens' son, and the moments leading up to Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection, and then watching all that happen, I think was really well done. And I enjoyed the movie a lot more, and I was impressed by how well this movie was actually able to share the gospel visually. It wasn't just telling us stuff that this happened. I did appreciate that the movie was explaining why this was happening. I mean, it even goes back to the Garden of Eden at one point. So for all its flaws, I can't be that mad at this movie, because it does what some, movies based off of the Bible are afraid to do, and that is actually share the gospel. So I give it a lot of points for that, a lot of credit. I don't think that, I don't think you can show this movie to an unsaved child and they understand everything completely, and can get saved by just watching this movie. But I do think this movie could be great conversation starters. But it is very technical sometimes. They even explain Passover at some point. But I also kind of appreciate that a lot of lines are word for word stuff from the Bible. There isn't a whole lot of twisting the words here. I appreciated that as well. Even though it does make the dialogue seem kind of stale, it is what it says in the Bible, and I give it props for that as well. So, all in all, a bit of a mixed bag, but I am leaning more positive on The King of Kings. I don't think it's the greatest, Bible movie ever made, but I do think it could have been a lot worse. And on the surface, it does look rather cheap and lame, but they actually did put a lot of effort into trying to make this a movie that kids can enjoy. I don't know how much there is for adults, but I could easily see this being something that adults show their kids to start conversations about the gospel. And if that was the goal of the filmmakers, I don't know if it was, but if it was the goal, they did a really good job, in my opinion, with that. So yeah, those are my thoughts on The King of Kings.